Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Ankita Jain from DSPSR New Delhi. Today we are going to talk on module Managing Ethical Issues in Human Resource Management from the paper Human Resource Management. Objectives, meaning and definition, need for ethical policies and codes, importance of ethics in human resource, ethical issues in human resource, approaches to ethical issues in organization, factors influencing ethical behavior at work, role of human resource management in the development of ethical behavior, and ethical dilemmas. Value-based management, which means behavior based on ethical principles and values, is a good formula for the long-term health and success of every organization. In fact, the practicing of ethical values in management is an essential prerequisite for both individual success and organizational efficiency. However, when individuals practice ethical values within an organization, it does not mean that the entire organization is ethical. Only when the entire organization practices fairness and justice in a systematic way can be called an ethical organization. The foundation of the ethical organization is mutual trust and respect. Employees are any organization work hard not only for economic benefits but also for social and psychological well-being. A violation of ethical principles is decision making by an organization can have a deep impact on the employee's life and character. A written statement of policies and principles that guides the behavior of all persons is called code of conduct. But in fact, is that no amount of written rules can achieve ethical behavior among the employees unless the organizational leaders conduct themselves in a fair, moral, and legal manner. Ethical leadership is essential for creating an ethical workforce. The employees of an organization view then leadership as role models to determine their own behavior. Indeed, those organizations where employees reported fair treatment by management showed proportionately less ethical behavior. Meaning and definition. Ethics refers to principles of conduct governing an individual or a group, and specifically to the standards you use to decide what your conduct should be. Ethical decisions are always characterized by two things. First, they are always involve normative judgment. A normative judgment implies that something is good or bad, right or wrong, better or worse. Ethical decisions also involve morality, which is society's accepted standard of behavior. Moral standards differ from other standards in several ways. Moral judgments tend to trigger strong emotions. Violating moral standards may make individuals feel ashamed or remorseful. Managing human resource often requires making decisions in which fairness plays a big role. Fairness is an integral part of what most people think of as justice. A company that is just, among other things, equitable, fair, impartial, and unbiased in the ways it does things. With respect to employee relations, experts generally define organizational justice in terms of three components. Distributive justice, it refers to the fairness and justice of decisions result. Second, procedural justice, it refers to the fairness of the process. And third, interpersonal or interactive justice, it refers to the manner in which managers conduct their interpersonal dealings with employees and in particular to the degree to which they treat employees with dignity as opposed to abuse or disrespect. Definition: according to Manuel Velasquez, ethics are the principles of conduct governing an individual or a group. R.C. Appleby states, ethics is a set of moral principles that govern the action of an individual or a group. R. Vinay Mondi states, ethics is the discipline dealing with what is good or bad, what is right or wrong, or what is moral duty and obligation. According to P.S. Bajaj and Raj Agarwal, ethics is a set of standards or a code or a value system worked out from human reason and experience by which free human actions are determined as ultimately right or wrong, good or evil. If an action agrees with these standards, it is ethical. If it does not agree, it is unethical. According to George A. Steiner and John F. Steiner, business ethics is a study of good and evil, right and wrong, just and unjust actions of businessmen. Thus, human resource management plays an important role in building an ethical environment in an organization. To create the appropriate atmosphere, every action taken by the HR people must comply with the ethical standards of the organization strictly. The alleged violations of the ethical norms by the HR people can vitiate the whole ethical environment of the organization. The specific role of the human resource management is to deal with those ethical issues that define the employer-employee relationship, namely the rights and duties of employers and employees. The issue of ethics normally arises in situations where there is a conflict between one or more of the parties on issues like fairness of the employment contract, balance of power between employer and employee, implementation of power, law, employee and employer privacy, among the others. The key role of the ethics in an organization is the coordination and resolution of conflicting interests in a just and fair manner. It is responsibility of the HR manager to ensure that every action taken by the organization conforms to the ethical standards. The function of the HR manager is to preserve the ethical standards of an organization and reserving the slip, if any, in ethical standards. Need for ethical policies and codes. Business ethics is mainly concerned with the relationship between business goals and execution techniques. Its focus is on the manner of execution of these business goals towards an anticipated results. Following are the need for ethics in organization. First, a code of ethics in place will enable an organization to create an ethical workplace. Each employee will understand clearly the standard of behavior and his/her role in carrying out the principles and values of organization. Second, the growing presence of knowledge workers in organization have necessitated the introduction of strong ethical policies, as they are more likely to violate laws and the code of ethics as compared to the earlier generations of workers. Third, organizations have fewer levels of management and are pushing decision making down to line managers. As a result, any decision by an immediate superior can be viewed as personal and subjective by the subordinates, and this situation may call for code of ethics. Fourth, visible ethical policies and code can send a clear signal to the employees that the organization is serious about ethics and that it will make no compromise when it comes to dealing with ethical standards and violation. Fifth, ethical policies will enable employees to evaluate quickly their proposed actions with the company's code of conduct to determine whether these fit the existing ethical standards. Generally, the policy's image for companies that practice ethical values will be high in the society. As a result, these companies can attract the best candidate in the labor market with ease. Thus, it is imperative for each organization to have a strong code of ethics that focus on business practices and specific issues such as conflict of interest, accuracy of information, prevention of harassment, safety, environmental compliance, and rules and regulation. Importance of ethics in human resource. Ethics is important to business in general, in HR in particular, for several reasons. Ethics corresponds to basic human needs. It is man's basic nature that he desires to be ethical, not only in his private life but also in his business affairs, where, being a manager, he knows that his decision may affect the lives of thousands of employees. Moreover, most people want to be part of an organization which they can respect and be proud of because they perceive its purpose and activities to be honest and beneficial to the society. Second, values create credibility with the public. A company perceived by the public to be ethically and socially responsive will be honored and respected even by those who have no intimate knowledge of its actual working. Third, values give the management credibility with its employees. Values are supposed to be a common language to bring the leadership and its people together. Organizational ethics, when perceived by employees as genuine, create common goals, value, and language. Fourth, values help better decision making. Another point of great importance is that an ethical attitude helps the management make better decisions. That is, decisions which are in the interest of the public, their employees, and the company's own long-term good, even though the decision making is slower. Fifth, ethics and profit go together. A company which is inspired by ethical conduct is also profitable. Value-driven companies are most likely to be successful in the long run, though in the short run they may lose money. Sixth, law cannot protect the society. Ethics can. Ethics is important because the government laws and lawyers cannot do everything to protect the society. Technology develops faster than the government can regulate. Ethical issues in HR. Of all the organizational issues or problems, ethical issues are the most difficult ones to handle or deal with. Issues arise in employment, remuneration and benefits, industrial relations, and health and safety. First, cash and compensation plans. There are ethical issues pertaining to salaries, executive prerequisites, and the annual incentive plan, etc. The HR manager is often under pressure to raise the band of base salaries. There is increased pressure upon the HR function to pay out more incentives to the top management, and the justification for the same is put as the need to retain the latter. Further, ethical issues crop in HR when long-term compensation and incentive plans are designed in consultation with the CEO or an external consultant. While deciding upon the payout, there is pressure on favoring the interest of the top management in comparison to that of the other employees and stakeholders. The compensation plan includes base salaries, annual incentive plans, long-term incentive plans, executive prerequisites, and separation agreements. First, base salaries. The HR function is often presumed to justify a higher level of base salaries or a higher percentage increase than what competitive practice calls for. Second, annual incentive plan. The HR manager is often forced to design and administer top management incentive plans at higher rates than what the individual deserve. A common rationale presented to the HR executive for bending the rules is the fear of losing the outstanding executives if higher incentives are not paid. Third, long-term incentive plan. Just as with annual incentive plan, many HR executives have the responsibility of designing and administering the firm's long-term incentive plans. But in consultation with CEO and an internal consultant, ethical issues arise when the HR executive is put to pressure to favor top management interests over those of other employees as investors. Next, executive prerequisites. Executive prerequisites make the ethical standard of the HR executive difficult because their cost is often out of proportion to the value added. Second, performance appraisal. Performance appraisal lends itself to ethical issues. Assessment of an individual's performance is based on observation and judgment. HR managers are expected to observe the performance in order to judge its effectiveness. Ethics should be the cornerstone of performance evaluation, and the overall objective of high ethical performance reviews should to provide an honest assessment of the performance and mutually develops a plan improve the rate's effectiveness. Third, privacy issues. Any person working with any organization is an individual and has a personal side to his existence which he demands should be respected and not intruded. The employee wants the organization to protect his/her personal life. This personal life may encompass things like his religion, political and social benefits, etc. However, certain situations may arise that mandate snooping behavior on the part of the employer. For example, mail scanning is one of the activities used to track the activities of an organizational employee who is believed to be engaged in activities that are not in the larger benefits of the organization. Fourth, race, gender, and disability. In many organizations, till recently, the employees were differentiated on the basis of their race, gender, origin, and their disability. Not anymore, ever since the evolution of laws and a regulatory framework that has standardized employee behavior towards each other. In good organization, the only differentiating factor is performance. In addition, the power of filing litigation had put organization on the back foot. Managers are trained for aligning behavior and avoiding discriminatory practices. The practice of treatment of employees according to their race, ethnic origin, sex, or disability has largely been stopped. No enterprise today done too publicly faith it denies minorities, women, and the disabled opportunities for employment, remuneration, and growth prospects different from those given to others. In this, the role of HR function is to first, monitor the principles and norms of the enterprise to ensure that they reflect the values of the society as expressed in its law. Second, monitor selection, rewards, development, and the appraisal system to ensure that they are consistent with the principles and norms. And third, vigorously pursue violations and, when necessary, vigorously work to defend the enterprise against unfounded allegations. Fifth, safety and health. Much of the industrial work is hazardous. This is because of the extensive use of high-speed and noisy machinery, production process requiring high temperature and increasing reliance on chemical compounds. Accident, injuries, and illness are likely to occur under these circumstances. Over past decade, new categories of accident and illness have emerged, including fast-growing job safety problem of office, employment issues. Human resource practitioners face bigger dilemmas in employee hiring. One dilemma stems from the pressure of hiring someone who has been recommended by a friend, someone from your family, or a top executive. Yet another dilemma arises when you have already hired someone and he/she is later found to have presented fake documents. Two cases may arise and both are critical. In the first case, the person has been trained and the position is critical. In the second case, the person has been highly appreciated for his work during his shorter stint, or he/she has the unique blend of skills with the right kind of attitude. Both situations are sufficiently dilemmatic to leave even a seasoned HR campaigner in a fix. Restructuring and layoffs. Restructuring and consequent layoffs have become relevant because of poor management, but incompetence does not become unethical. There are ethical implications in the process by which termination decisions are made and actions taken. For example, if restructuring requires closing a plant, the process by which that plant is chosen, how the news will be communicated, and the time frame for completing the layoffs are ethically important if conducted in an atmosphere of fairness and equity with dignity of the affected individual in mind, the action is ethical. Approaches to ethical issues in organization. Though many supervisors are interested in acting in an ethical manner, they often face the dilemma in determining what constitutes ethical actions. Utilitarian approach. In this approach, the HR policy is based on the philosophy of the utmost good for the greatest number of people. It evaluates the ethical quality of policies and practices in terms of their effects on the general well-being. For instance, decisions like layoffs is a difficult situation for the organization are justified on the grounds that they benefit the majority of employees. Approach based on rights. This approach is based on the principle that organizations should respect an individual's dignity and rights. Each employee is entitled to be treated with due respect and to be provided with safe working conditions. A reasonable and equitable pay system and relevant and unbiased performance evaluation and individuals' privacy and integrity also be respected by the organization. Approach based on justice. The focus of this approach is on equal treatment, adoption, and consistency in the application of policies and rules. The focal point of this point is on the fairness in ensuring a balance between the benefits and the burdens of the job, like compensation and performance, compensation and job attendance. Similarly, HR policies should lay down a proper procedure for dealing with the employee's discipline problems such as rule violation, absenteeism, and employee insubordination. To make the HR policy strong in ethical content, an organization should consider these approaches while framing the policies as well as in their implementation. Factors influencing ethical behavior at work. Ethics represent values cherished by the member of an organization. It is essential for the HR managers to first understand the factors that shape the ethical behavior of the employees in an organization. First, individual factors. The personal character and outlook of individual can have a great influence in determining their ethical choice. Second, organizational factors. Sometimes the employee's ethical or unethical acts are determined by organizational consideration. For instance, an employee may indulge in a window dressing of financial results or a filing of false statements with the government agencies in the hope of protecting the interest of the company. In such cases, ethical lapses occur. In such cases, ethical lapses occur in the organization just because the employees feel pressure to do what they think is best to help their companies. Third, the supervisor's behavior. The notion of boss is always right may become a clinching factor in determining ethical or unethical acts of employees of an organization. Fourth, organization culture. The organizational culture reflects the total characteristics, values, traditions, and behaviors of the employees of the organization. And fifth, code of conduct. A code of ethics is a written statement of ethical principles and policies adopted by an organization governing the ethical behavior of its members. Role of HRM in development of ethical behavior. Recruitment and selection, training and development, performance appraisal, compensation, discipline and disciplinary procedure. Ethical dilemmas. Several ethical dilemmas comfort an HR manager. The ethical dilemmas arise from three sources. First, face-to-face ethics. These arise mainly because there is a human element in most business transactions. Business is composed of this human transaction. It should not be surprising that face-to-face ethical dilemmas arise often. It is likely that the quality assurance man overlooks minor defects and approves a lot delivered by a supplier because of the personal relationship that the two enjoy. Second, corporate policy ethics. Companies are often faced with ethical dilemmas that affect their operation across all departments and divisions. The consequences of employment contraction are labor-intensive basic industries because of the improved methods of production. Modern technology has replaced older methods of production, which has in turn resulted in hundreds being jobless. The ethical burden of deciding corporate policy matters normally rests upon a company's HR management. The HR managers and directors are responsible for making policies and implementing them too. The ethical content of their policies can have enormous impact throughout the company. It can set an ethical tone and send right signals to all employees as well as external stakeholders. Third, functional area ethics. Functional area of a business is likely to comfort ethical issues. Accounting is a critical function of any business. Accounting statements reveals to the manager and owner the financial soundness of a company. Managers, investors, regulating agencies, tax collectors, and trade unions rely on accounting data to make decisions. Honesty, integrity, accuracy are absolute requirements of the accounting functions. Account standards ensure a high level of honest and ethical accounting disclosure. Thus, ethical dilemma crop up in purchasing departments where strong pressure is to obtain the lowest possible prices from suppliers and where two felt similar need it back lucrative contracts. Bribes, kickbacks, and discriminating pricing are temptation to both parties. So students, let us summarize what we have learned in this module. International human resource management is defined as a process of procuring, developing, compensating, and retaining people in organization operating beyond national boundaries at the global level. The factor distinguishing international HRM from domestic HRM are additional HR activities, an international perspective on HR functions, greater attention to expatriate employees' needs, gradual shift in focus from expatriates to the local employees. Thank you.